Hi, I'm Loretta of Loretta Makes a Million. I'm the one taking a challenge to make $1 million in profit from trading options over the next number of years. Today you are watching video number 1, Option Basics, Long Calls. Before we get started, I want everyone to understand that this video is for educational purposes only. I am not a registered investment advisor. I am not offering investment advice. Please be aware that there is risk and potential losses associated with options trading. Learning about options is like learning a new language. Do not be discouraged if you are confused by the information in this video. I encourage you to pause the video and take notes. If you're watching this video on YouTube, come to my website lorettamakes-a-million.com and sign up for my free newsletter to stay up to date on my trades, other helpful hints exclusively on my website, and other exciting information. In this video, we will discuss what is an option contract, what is a call, what does it mean to be long the call, what is the mark, what are the bid and ask, and we will take a look at the profit and loss chart for a long call. Let's begin. What is an option contract? An option contract is an agreement between a buyer and a seller that gives the buyer of the option the right, not the obligation, to buy or sell an underlying at an agreed upon price by a set date. The agreed upon price is called the strike price. The underlying is the stock or index fund that must be delivered when an option contract is exercised. In the case of an index fund, the option will be settled in cash. This will be explained further in a later video. For all examples in basic option videos 1 through 4, the underlying will be stock. One option contract is equal to 100 units of the underlying. For example, if you buy one contract of a Google option, you are buying the right, not the obligation, to buy or sell 100 shares of Google at an agreed upon price by a set date. The set date is referred to as the expiration date. The expiration date is the last day that an option contract is valid. The buyer of an option has the right, not the obligation, to buy or sell an underlying on or before the expiration date. If the buyer of the option does not exercise the option on or before the expiration date, the option will expire worthless. The two types of options are calls and puts. Calls give one the right to buy an underlying. Puts give one the right to sell an underlying. In this video, we are going to discuss calls, specifically long calls. A call gives the buyer the right, not the obligation, to buy an underlying at a set price by a set date. You can exercise your option any day before expiration. You do not have to wait until the expiration date to exercise the option. Buyers of calls want the price of the underlying to increase before the option expires. When you buy a call, it is said that you are long the call. I'm going to use an example of buying a house to help demonstrate a long call and why you might buy one. Let's say that you find a house on the market that you really want to buy. It is listed for $100,000, but you're not sure if the housing market is going to go up or down in the next couple of months. You're not sure that $100,000 is a fair price for the house. The market's been changing a lot recently, and you want some time to see if the price of the house will settle at $100,000 or go up or go down. You are willing to pay $5,000 for the time to wait and see. You pay the owner of the house $5,000 for the option to buy the house for $100,000 within the next 90 days. The premium in this example is $5,000. The premium is what you buy or sell an option for. It is referred to as a debit or a credit. In this case, you are paying a debit of $5,000. The strike price is $100,000, which is also the current price of the house. The days till expiration are 90. The underlying is the house. Now, you have the right, not the obligation, to buy the house for $100,000 in the next 90 days. Question: what happens if the house remains at $100,000 in the next 90 days? You have the right to buy the house for $100,000, and if you exercise your option, you will have spent a total of $105,000. $100,000, which is the agreed upon price, plus the $5,000 premium, would equal $105,000. Question: what if the value of the house drops to $50,000 over the next 90 days? You can let the option expire, the seller keeps the $5,000, and you're happy that you didn't buy a $50,000 house for $100,000. You, the buyer of the home option, benefit by avoiding a large loss. Question: what if the value of the house increases to $150,000 over the next 90 days? You have the right to buy the house for $100,000. The owner sold you the option and is obligated to sell you the house for $100,000, even though the market value is $150,000. If you were to sell this home after you bought it for $100,000, you could make a profit of $45,000. $150,000, the current house value, minus $100,000, the agreed upon price, minus the $5,000 premium. This is a $45,000 profit from a $5,000 investment in 90 days. This is why people buy options. Notice that I said the seller of the option is obligated to sell you the house for $100,000. Sellers of options are obligated to fulfill the option contract if the buyer exercises the option by or before the expiration date. Question: what if the value of the house increases to $150,000 over the next 90 days, but you no longer want to buy the house? Let's assume that you can sell the option on the open market. You originally paid $5,000 for the right to buy the house for $100,000 in 90 days. The house value increased to $150,000. That $5,000 option is now worth more than you paid for it. Another home buyer offers you $15,000 to buy the option from you. You agree. Now you have made $10,000. $10,000 is less than $45,000, but you never had to take possession of the home. It's like you pulled money out of the air. But really what you did was take a $5,000 risk, and that risk paid off handsomely. That's what option buying and selling is all about. The buyer of the home option benefited when the price of the home went up. The buyer of a call option also benefits when the price of the underlying goes up. For example, on June 17th, Google is trading at $543. Let's say you think the price of Google will increase over the next couple of months. You buy one contract of the August 2014 545 call option for a $20.45 debit that will expire in 59 days. As a reminder, when you buy a call, it is said you are long the call. The premium is a $20.45 debit. The strike price is $545. The $545 strike is the at-the-money strike. The at-the-money strike is the strike that is closest to the current market price of the underlying. The underlying is Google stock. Remember that one option contract is equal to 100 units of the underlying. In this example, one contract is equal to 100 shares of Google. The days to expiration are 59. The expiration month is August 2014. That means that the option will expire in the month of August 2014. Monthly options usually expire on the third Friday of the contract month. Question: what if the Google stock price increases to $584 at 43 days to expiration? You check the market to see how much you can sell this call for. The mark is at a $45.15 credit. The mark gives you a sense of what the current market value of the option is. The mark is the midpoint between how much you can sell the option for and how much you can buy the option for. The amount you can sell an option for is referred to as the bid. The amount you can buy an option for is referred to as the ask. So, the mark is the midpoint between the bid and the ask. You sell the call for a $45.15 credit and make a profit of $2,470. Here's how the profit is derived. You subtract the $20.45 debit that you paid to buy the call option from the $45.15 credit you received when you sold the call option, which would equal $24.70. Remember that one contract is equal to 100 units of the underlying. In this case, 100 shares of Google. So you take the difference in the buying and the selling of the call option and you multiply it by 100. $24.70 times 100 shares of Google would equal $2,470. You made $2,470 without ever owning any stock. Now let's compare how much capital is required to buy 100 shares of Google versus one contract of Google call options. For 100 shares of Google, your initial required capital is $543 times 100, which is equal to $54,300. For one contract of Google, your initial required capital is $20.45 times 100, which is equal to $2,045. Being able to control 100 shares of stock for $2,045 versus $54,300 is a great advantage, and this is why we learn to trade options. Question: what if the Google stock price decreases to $500 at expiration? You do not have to buy Google at $545. You can let the long call expire and you will lose the $20.45 premium that you already paid. This will result in a maximum loss of $2,045. Here is how the maximum loss is derived. The $20.45 debit you paid to buy the call option times 100 would give you a maximum loss of $2,045. For long calls, the maximum loss is the debit paid times 100 units of the underlying. But remember, you can check the market at any time before expiration and see if you can sell the call for a profit or a reduced loss. Depending on how close you are to expiration, you can sell the call for some credit. You will get less of a credit the closer you are to expiration. Now let us compare how much money you could have lost if you had bought 100 shares of Google versus one contract of the Google call option if the stock price had decreased to $500 at expiration. For 100 shares of Google, your loss would be $4,300. Here is how the loss is derived. You subtract the $500 current market value of Google from the $543 market value of Google on June 17th, which would equal $43. $43 times 100 shares would equal a loss of $4,300. For one contract of the Google call option, your maximum loss would be $2,045. You would have lost over 2 times more money if you had bought 100 shares of Google. By buying a call, you have defined risk. The maximum you could lose is $2,045. If you buy 100 shares of Google, theoretically it could go to zero. You could lose $54,300. In this example, you would have lost $4,300 versus $2,045. Buying the call is still better than buying the stock, even when the market goes down. The call gives you leverage on the upside and protection on the downside. Question: what if the Google stock price decreases to $500 at 10 days to expiration? You check the market and the mark is at a $5 credit. You sell the call for a $5 credit. You have a loss of $1,545. Here is how the loss is derived. You subtract the $5 credit you received for selling the call from the $20.45 debit you paid to buy the call, which would equal $15.45. $15.45 times 100 shares of Google will give you a loss of $1,545. You have a loss of $1,545, but not a max loss of $2,045. You benefit from selling the call before expiration. I never let my options go to expiration. Question: what if the Google stock price is at $545.01 at expiration? The call is now 1 penny in the money. A call option is in the money when the option strike price is less than the current market value of the underlying. 545 is less than $545.01. In the money for a call means that the buyer of the call is able to make money by buying the stock at the strike price and then selling it for the current market price. It does not take into account how much of a debit you paid for the call option. So, if you buy 100 shares of Google for $545 and then sell the shares for $545.01, you would make a $1 profit. This is considered in the money. At my brokerage, if the long call is even 1 penny in the money at expiration, the option will be exercised and you will be assigned 100 shares of Google at $545 a share. You will pay $54,500 for the 100 shares of Google. You should ask your broker what will happen to your account if your long call is 1 penny in the money at expiration. If you do not want 100 shares of Google assigned to your account, then you need to sell the call before expiration. Let's take a look at a profit and loss chart for a long call. On October 20th, 2014, Google is trading at $516.05. You buy one contract of the December 2014 515 call option for a $21.50 debit that will expire in 60 days. The red line is the profit and loss graph of the long call at expiration. For now, we're going to focus on the red line and ignore the white line. Here is the zero line. Any point above the zero line is profit, and any point below the zero line is loss. This dashed red line represents the price that the stock is currently trading at. In this case, it's $516.05. Here is the strike price. Here is the break-even point. For a long call, the break-even is the point the stock price needs to be greater than in order for us to make money at expiration. The break-even point for a long call is determined by adding the debit paid to the strike price. In this case, a debit of $21.50 is added to the 515 strike for a break-even of $536.50. We need the price of Google to be greater than $536.50 to make money at expiration. We want the market to go up. A long call has unlimited profit. As long as the stock keeps going up in price, you can make money. The max loss for a long call is determined by multiplying the debit times 100 units of the underlying. In this case, $21.50 times 100 would equal $2,150. Long calls have limited loss. The loss is limited to the debit times 100 units of the underlying. A Google stock price of $5.15 or lower will result in a max loss. What if Google ends up between the strike and the break-even point? The buyer will have a loss, but not a max loss. For example, if Google ends up at $530 at expiration, you will have a loss of $650. The loss is derived by subtracting $530, the price of Google at expiration, from $536.50, which is the break-even point. This is equal to $6.50. You then multiply $6.50 times 100 shares of Google for a loss of $650. This graph represents the general shape of long calls. Long calls have unlimited profits with limited risk. Now let's talk about the white line. The white line is the profit and loss graph of the long Google call today. As each day goes by and we get closer to expiration, the white line gets closer to the red line. This will be explained further in a later video. You will note that you can make a profit sooner on the white line than the red line. For example, if Google had a big move up today to $530, you could sell this position today and make money. At expiration, you would lose money if Google was at $530. Remember, you can sell this position anytime before expiration. Let's review what we have learned in this video. A call option gives you the right to buy an underlying at a set price by a set date. If you buy a call, then you are long the call. Long call options benefit when the market moves up. When the price of the underlying goes up, the buyer of the call option can sell their call option at a higher price than what they paid for the option and make a profit. Long calls have unlimited profit and limited risk. Long calls let you leverage your capital so that you can control stock with reduced initial capital. Long calls also reduce your maximum loss versus buying 100 shares of stock that could go to $0. The mark is the midpoint between the bid and the ask. The mark gives you a sense of what the current market value of the option is. The bid is how much you can sell an option for. The ask is how much you can buy an option for. That's it for this video. Congratulations for finishing Option Basics video number 1. There's a lot to learn, but stay with it, and soon you can be trading options. Please join me for my next video, video number 2, Option Basics Short Calls. Thanks for joining me on my $1 million journey.